Loading.
The story of Charlie's first question. Charlie had never asked a question. For instance, Charlie never asked the question, why, when his friends told him to do stupid things. He never asked for help when he got lost in places like Marks and Spencer's. He got stuck in the underpants section for 5 hours. He also never asked what he had done wrong when people like his mean aunt handed out hideous and cruel punishments such as unplugging the internet. However, one evening, after an especially dull internet-free day, Charlie was staring intensely at some leftover ketchup on his dinner plate. He looked at it closer, and closer, and closer still. He felt an unbearable pressure building up in his forehead. It was all getting too much, and Charlie could do nothing but shout out, "Dad, what's inside of ketchup?" Now, hearing Charlie ask a question was so shocking, so outlandish to Charlie's dad that he almost ran from the house screaming in fear right then and there. But he summoned his courage, turned to face Charlie, and did his best to answer his question.
Well, Charlie, ketchup is mostly made out of tomatoes. That's why we sometimes call it tomato sauce, I suppose.
Yeah, Dad, but what's inside of a tomato then?
Well, Charlie, son, the answer to that question is to, ask your mother.
And so, Charlie ran out into the garden where Mum was gardening. Mum, what's inside a tomato? Well, Charlie, tomatoes are made out of lots of things, such as stems, vascular bundles, and tomato seeds. Yeah, Mum, but then what's a seed made out of? Charlie's parents had never known Charlie to ask a single question, but now that he had asked his first, they were determined to help him find the answer. Right, Charlie, get in the car. We're going to see your biology teacher. After a long day at school, Charlie's biology teacher was busy planning the next day's lessons. Although, really, he was just playing Animal Crossing on his Nintendo Switch. He was halfway through planting a virtual orange tree when Charlie and his mum burst through the door. Excuse me, sir, but, what's inside a seed that's inside a tomato? Oh, goodness me. Well, Charlie, seeds have a lot of things in them, I suppose, but ultimately, every living thing, you, me, animals, plants, cats, dogs, oranges, they're all made from cells. Yeah, but what's inside a cell? I don't really know, Charlie. Perhaps you should ask a molecular biologist, hey? Now, go away, I've got something very important to do. And so, Charlie's mum bundled Charlie back into the car, and they drove to the local university to see a molecular biologist. Hello, I am a molecular biologist. What's inside a cell that's inside of a tomato? Oh, well, there are a lot of things in cells, you young man, but ultimately, Everything, you, me, animals, plants, stars, planets, jelly, frisbees, ducks, all matter. Everything in the universe is made up of atoms.
Yeah, but, what's inside of an atom?
Well, yes, young man. I don't really know, but I know exactly who you need to go and see. And so, Charlie's mum bundled Charlie back into the car before getting out and bundling him into an aeroplane. Before he knew it, Charlie was getting off at an airport in
Switzerland? Eh?
Charlie's mum bundled Charlie into a taxi and they drove to a huge building. They entered, and Charlie's mum spoke to someone at a desk before leading Charlie to a doorway.
Charlie, my son, it's time you went on alone.
So Charlie walked down a huge corridor alone. Except Charlie realised it wasn't actually straight, but it sort of curved around slightly. Finally, Charlie found a door that was different from all the rest. He went inside. Through the smoke and the mist, Charlie could make out a small figure wearing a lab coat hunched in the corner. Charlie felt uneasy, but he had come so far and so very much wanted to know what was inside of a tomato. He gathered up his courage and stepped forward, when suddenly the figure spun around. "Ah, I've been expecting you. It is I, Professor Brian Cox. You might have seen me on the TV, or you may recognise me for my boyish good looks, dark hair, and soothing yet informative voice. I am a professor of particle physics."
You sure you're Professor Brian Cox?
Yeah, look, I'm doing my best, Charlie.
Where exactly are you supposed to be from?
Do you have a question for me, or not?
Right, yes, what, yeah, is inside of an atom? That's inside of a cell, that's inside of a seed, that's inside of a tomato. Well, I can answer that for you. You are standing inside the Large Hadron Collider here in Switzerland, and we use this giant machine to find answers to these sorts of questions. What is inside of an atom? Well, atoms are made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons, and inside some of those are elementary particles, such as quarks. Charlie nodded to himself and went to leave, but something stopped him. He couldn't leave just yet. There was still another question. He wasn't satisfied. He had to ask it. But, Professor Brian Cox, what are inside all of those things? Like, what's inside of an elementary particle?
Yes, Charlie. Well, perhaps Professor Quark here might be able to help you. The professor rummaged in his pockets and produced a glove puppet of a small duck. It wore a tiny lab coat and a tiny bow tie. "Hello! Do you get it? Hey? Do you get it, Charlie? Professor Quark? Because Professor Quark here is a duck. And quark sounds like quack. Do you get it? Do you see, Charlie? Quark, quack, quark, quack, quark, quack, 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 quack.
Yeah, but That's just a puppet that you're holding.
What Professor Brian Cox is trying to say is that we don't really know what's inside of an elementary particle, and I've gone a little bit mad trying to find out, haven't I, Professor Quark?
Yes, you have, Professor. Where exactly is your accent from again? Look, that's not a real duck. That's a duck puppet that you've put in a lab coat.
It's a real duck.
Ah!
And so Charlie ran. He ran out of the room, back down the long curved corridor, back to his mum, back in a taxi, back to the airport, back to the car. And before he knew it, Charlie was at home, staring at his plate once again. Oh, Charlie, dear, I'm sorry you didn't get an answer to your question.
Oh, it's all right, Mum.
And indeed, it was all right, because Charlie felt he had learnt a lot on the way. But he did still feel curious and wanted to ask, perhaps, just one more question.
Dad, what's outside of a tomato?